Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of Big Finish audio dramas. One episode a day, 7 days a week. And today, on the 15th of August, 2018, we are starting the second serial from the 13th season of Doctor Who with Planet of Evil. And I have some initial thoughts about just the production side of things. This is one of two Tom Baker stories written by Louis Marks, who wrote Planet of Giants for William Hartnell and Day of the Daleks. So he returns to the writing staff after quite a long gap. And so that's just sort of interesting because, and let's be honest, Day of the Daleks and Planet of Giants weren't bad, they weren't amazing. They were good, perfectly serviceable stories. So that's sort of an indication of this might be the type of story that this might be the type of story we're in for. That it's good, but not amazing. That being said, with going with my judgments on part one, on the production side of things, I won't even get into the plot yet because, well, this is going to be something I want to get out of the way first because it's very, very important. The forest sets for this story look gorgeous. David Maloney is back in the director's chair after he directed Genesis of the Daleks, and it looks glorious. It looks alien, yet it looks familiar. You have, reds, all these like colors, but they're all sort of muted because everything is being shot in this low light. Like everything looks dark. It doesn't quite look gritty, but it's very, very dark, and it helps build this atmosphere that something's wrong here on this planet. That being said, this first episode doesn't have a whole lot of plot. It's very much a sort of a standard. It kind of feels like Louis Marks was actually writing a Hartnell serial with Tom Baker in the role, at least a little bit. To me, you have the Doctor and Sarah Jane picking up a distress call. We actually see a new TARDIS interior for the first time. This, which is kind of a small set, but it works. It's a nice enough interior. It's the first time we have like a red time rotor, and I like the red time rotors. It's not my favorite set, but it's a nice, decent sized set. Gets used a couple of times before they actually shift it out next season for a different set. But yeah, nice to get some scenes inside the actual TARDIS for once. Something that, well, wasn't actually happening. They weren't doing scenes inside the TARDIS for, season 12 or really even season 11. But yeah, new TARDIS scene, and it looks nice. You have the Doctor and Sarah Jane. Also, nice TARDIS model shots. Again, there's a lot of this production-wise, this is a good episode. Like, really good. Story-wise, it's pretty good. It's decent. You have the planet, Zeta Minor, on the edge of the universe. An amazing premise. We are sort of doing a Star Trekian go boldly where no one has gone before sort of thing, which, makes sense. This is Doctor Who. You can go anywhere in time and space. So let's go. So they're on Zeta Minor, which is this planet where, well, an expedition is lost except for one man. And Sarah Jane has felt some weird feelings about this planet. And the forest looks creepy. And it's trying to be Doctor Who does Forbidden Planet. If Terror of the Dragon, this is really all this season is going to be. It's going to be a Doctor Who does, sort of classic sci-fi horror movies. This time being Doctor Who does Forbidden Planet, mixed in with Doctor Who does Jekyll and Hyde. Well, the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, if you want to be accurate, in space. So it's an interesting mashup. And the mashup should work, but the plot doesn't get going. Like, we have this Professor Sorensen, who's the only one who survived, and none of you have the Doctor and Sarah Jane being captured, and the TARDIS being captured by the rescue ship. They take them prisoner, and they're going to explore the planet, and then the Doctor escapes, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane escape, and into the forest they see this creature, like, just that, because there's been indications that there's something out there, something just lurking in the shadows, and it's a very creepy sort of thing. And then you get this monster revealed, which is sort of this weird CSO effect. Here's the problem. I can't quite tell what this design is supposed really to look like. It's, they eventually go into this idea that it's antimatter later on in the story, but just the design itself, I can't tell what it's supposed to be. So really, the cliffhanger doesn't quite work with, because it's like you can't really tell what it's supposed to be. It's not badly shot or anything. It's not the best design. It looks all sort of lumpy, and red. Like, it looks almost like a doodle. You can't quite tell, is it supposed to be threatening? Like, what is this thing? Which, I mean, I guess works because they're going for an unknown thing. But yeah, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like the story really has a grasp on, yes, this is the monster. This is the horrible monster. But that being said, it's still a decent episode. Tom Baker and Liz Sladen are great. It's really, the episode gets by on atmosphere. Gives you alone that, it's at least a decent episode. So I'm going to give Planet of Evil Part 1 a 7 out of 10. Okay, it is the 16th of August 2018, and I just finished watching Part 2 of Planet of Evil. And Part 2 of Planet of Evil is really boring. Like, don't get me wrong. The direction of this story is great. It's a really, really nice looking story. It looks good. It has, a good sense of scale and has, some really decent effects actually, but just as a plot, there isn't much going for it. Like, I'm going to keep this pretty short because there isn't much going for it. This is, the doctor finds a dead body. He finds a hole where antimatter and matter meet. He figures out that, hey, you're not going to be able to leave this planet because the antimatter and the matter mix, and you have antimatter-tainted minerals, and the creature's just going to stop you every time. Also, Sorensen's insane. Please listen to me. So, and actually, this is one time where the captain, actually listens to the doctor, which is interesting, that you have the doctor actually being an authority figure, and actually, taken seriously, sort of, as an authority figure. But really, there isn't much for this episode. It's quite a bit of, look at how pretty everything is, over substance. You have some interesting stuff. You have some interesting effects, like you have a character who gets drained of all his energy, and the skeleton they use, the skeleton prop they use, is actually really good, really well shot. It's just that, the plot itself doesn't do much, and I mean, the ideas are nice, but they're kind of aping the ideas just right off from the Three Doctors. And don't get me wrong, the Three Doctors is a really good story. If you rip off ideas from good stories if you want, but just because it's a good story doesn't mean it's automatically amazing. It's okay as a story. It has some interesting ideas. Sorensen's nice. The ideas are nice, but there just really isn't much to talk about. I mean, the cliffhanger's good. The doctor falls into this hole of antimatter. And for some reason, Sarah Jane is adversely affected by it, and the doctor isn't, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Why? It's because the doctor is a Time Lord, but it's not really explained very well, why the doctor would not be affected. So, that being said, I'm going to give Planet of Evil Part 2 just a 5 out of 10, because it's just sort of meh. Alright, it is the 16th of August 2018 still, and I just finished watching Part 3 of Planet of Evil, and Part 3 of Planet of Evil does the weird thing that actually picks up the story. It keeps the pace going along a little better. We actually get some interesting sort of ideas. A decent part of the episode is, brought out by, hey, we've got these fun, we've got this fun stuff going. We have, we've got the story somewhere, and it confines us to a spaceship, so we sort of have a Beast Under Siege sort of run around with Sorensen being evil, though he's called the Anti-Man, which is, that's a dumb name for a villain. That's just stupid. There's no, I can't say oh, it's clever, because it's not. It's dumb. it's a dumb name for a villain. The villain is, you know, not the most villainous, but it's at least, you know, I mean, at least it's a good idea that he's tainted by antimatter. Also, it's they don't really make a joke out of it, but the fact that the Doctor is actually partially responsible because he brought some antimatter onto the ship in, like, his tea tin, which is, you know, kind of hilarious. It's like, oh, we can't have any antimatter on this ship. Well, shoot, I just realized I had a tea tin, and the tea tin's got a tiny little bit of antimatter. That's how I survived the giant hole that I jumped into. Again, there's something about this story that just doesn't know. That's just like, it's pulling the, hey, we're doing weird stuff. Though, the runaround is nice. Though you have, the cliffhanger is great. It's a really, really solid final third episode cliffhanger, considering it's like, it's basically a, hey, the Doctor's dead because we think you're responsible for it, so we're gonna be the ones to make you get thrown out of time, like thrown out of the ship. And it's like their religion has funeral rites where they play a recording of the last rites and they just eject them out of the ship. Something that I think is really interesting. It's worth a look. Like it's worth the idea. Of course, even though the idea isn't fully explored, and you could probably get more out of it than they do, but at least it's something. It's giving us a good look into this society. Sorensen's also really good as the villain. He's playing the villain sort of as a rawr, I'm evil type thing, and not like just more over the top than anything, which is good. And the effects that make his eyes red, there's something. It's a cheap effect. Like, it's a cheap CSO effect. Like, nothing extraordinary, but it's enough to make you think, oh, that looks decent. That looks okay. It looks like, you know, it's actually a decent effect. Like, it looks like, yeah, I could see this being a thing that people use for the effects. Like, it's really not badly done. It doesn't look too terrible. It looks just okay. It looks okay. I still probably would have preferred it if they were, like, actually trying to do something a bit more interesting with it. But really, I mean, that's about it. It's just fun. It's a run around. The base is under siege, and, you know, moving into the spaceship actually helps. Even though the spaceship set, let's be honest, isn't as nice looking as the forest set, because the forest set is a great set. Like, that's a really good looking set design. Like, they obviously poured all their cash into that one set design, and we're like, well, we're kind of out of money here for the story. But yeah, no, it's decent enough. It's good. So I'm going to give Planet of Evil Part 3 a 6 out of 10. Alright, it is the 17th of August, 2018, and I just finished watching Part 4 of Planet of Evil. And Part 4 of Planet of Evil has the horrible problem of not being very good. This is weird. It's entirely confined to the ship, again, which, you know, was a good decision for Part 3. Weird that Part 3 is better than Part 4. This story is just plain old weird. But you know, you have the whole, I'm the anti-man. It's basically a guy who's like, you know, it's just that was never a good idea to begin with. Like, really, it doesn't work. You know, and this is just a bad episode. It kind of, the episode has the problem of everybody lives in the end. And the reason I'm being short about this, I barely remember this. Like, it's alright, let's do all this stuff. We defeat the villain of the piece. We defeat the villain of the piece, and then we say, yeah, we're done. Let's go. Come on, go home. Time to go home. We're done here. Nothing special anymore, which, okay, if you wanted really to do like hey, we're doing something not, we're not doing something completely ordinary, we're doing weird, it would be fine. But what's weird about the story is it's like, it tries to act like it's a big, like a big conclusion, like it wants to be, a big good ending. Like, yes, we have these ideas, and we're playing around with them, and they're decent ideas, but they don't really do much with that idea. They're just like, they give us an entire story of just like, hey, we're doing this thing, you better watch as we do the thing. And the thing doesn't really, it doesn't happen. It's like, oh yeah, we've got it, it's fine. And it's not really, it's like, it's fine. Nothing is really, the entire thing, didn't, didn't just, it just sort of stopped. It was like everyone lives. The doctor figures out how to make everyone, survive, which, I mean, isn't bad. Like really, that's not necessarily bad to have someone have the story end with everyone living, but it doesn't. The story doesn't feel like there are any consequences. I mean, the title of the episode is Planet of Evil. The idea is that this planet is evil. So yeah, it doesn't end well. It's not a satisfying conclusion, and it's just sort of very hand-wavy. So I'm going to give Planet of Evil Part 4 a 4 out of 10. And that being said, we add up the scores to give Planet of Evil a final score of 5.5 out of 10. Thank everybody for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. The next time the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon returns, we will take a look at Pyramids of Mars, but sadly this will be the last episode before my hiatus. The hiatus begins now, and I shall be back. But in the meantime, I have a couple of videos in store. A friend of mine has offered to make some new Who reviews, so look forward to that. But until then, this is Jacob Licklater signing off.